welcome to a Tuesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Tuesday means Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show will join us here in just a second. Second portion of the show today, we're going to have former Gator kicker who has a Super Bowl ring, Caleb Strugis. But let's go ahead and head on over to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend, Buddy Martin. Good morning, Buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I'm sort of in the dark like everybody else, but I'm doing good, and it's good to be here on a Tuesday morning with you.
Absolutely. Well, Buddy, before we get into college football, which everybody wants to talk about, we got some sad news on the Gator front and the PGA Tour. Camilo Villegas' young daughter, I think she was not even 2 years old, had some tumors on her brain or what have her, passed away. So our thoughts and prayers go out to his family.
Absolutely. And if you've ever known anybody who's lost a child or have lost a child, it's excruciating pain for that family. And our hearts go out to them and all the best to Camilo and his wife.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, the PGA Tour keeps rolling along. Michael Thompson wins this past week. They moved to Memphis to the FedEx, St. Jude FedEx, which is one of my favorite tournaments. I think it's very cool. It's also a World Golf Championship event. So a lot of the big boys will be playing in Memphis this week.
Yeah, it's good to see them. It's such a good group of people and things that they do. Obviously, there it's never been one of my favorite events, but it's about the players. Now, my wife's a big golf fan. I've told you this a lot, and she judges every week by who plays. And she'll say every week, "I don't know anybody on this." I said, "Yes, you do. You know Justin Thomas. You know whatever." And it feels like to some people that because the big names aren't out there, is that golf is slipped. Actually, a lot of the big names have been playing. Now, you might not know Michael Thompson, who won, obviously, and some of the other players, but I think there's some exciting young talent on the tour. And I do watch it every weekend, and I'll be watching this weekend.
Yeah, I'm a big golf fan, obviously, and enjoy watching. So, Buddy, Major League Baseball has cranked up, played 3 or 4 games now. Your thoughts on we'll talk about what's going on with the Marlins here in a second, but your thoughts on, are you enjoy watching it or what?
Well, I tell you the truth, I've always been a Rays fan, and I watch Rays games. I had, and I kind of got ticked off at them last year because they traded one of my favorite players as free agent out, but I've gone back to watching the Rays, and I'll watch most of the game. They had a heck of a comeback win the other night. Down in a 4-4 game. I like that new rule of putting the guy on second base in extra innings. It worked against the Rays, but they came back and got a big key hit right in the top of the bottom of the 10th and won the game 5-4. So it was a really good win for the Rays. And yes, I do watch baseball, but mostly just the Rays.
Well, Brady Singer did a tremendous job in his first outing for the Kansas City Royals. He's got a chance to be a star in the Major League Baseball.
Man, he came out smoking. He was just one strikeout away from the club record for an opener in that game. He went 5, 3 hits, 2 runs, struck out 7. If he gets 8, he would have the record for a player debuting. So he was such a dominant pitcher in college. And his control was great. His breaking ball is awesome, fun to watch. And boy, he's off to a good start. So Royals fans are pretty happy about that. Let's hope baseball is able to overcome all this other stuff and get back into their rhythm. I've lost a little of my lust for baseball in the last year or 2 or whatever. I like it on a quiet afternoon or evening sometimes, but baseball has got a ways to go.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't really watch a whole lot when we're in normalcy. But since there's nothing else, we've been lacking sports. I've actually watched a little bit. I was going to ask you your thoughts on the new rule. Now, did they insert that rule in extra innings to put the guy on second base just because it's going to be a shortened season? They have to play so many games in a short period of time? Or is that something they have been thinking about for a long time?
I'm not sure, but I think they did it because of the season this year to move the game along a little bit, did a few things like that. And I think they have a rule, but I don't know this for sure, about how taking pitchers out too. They have to face X number of batters, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I mean, that I knew the rule was there, and I didn't realize till later that they put it in, and that why they put it in. And it's a good reason because so many games go 12, 11, 12, 13 innings. They don't want to play those long games, even though the fans might like it. So I think it's a good it's an idea to speed the game up, which is what baseball needs. Baseball needs to get with it and realize that people don't want those 4-hour games anymore.
Now, refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. July is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Buddy Martin. You can follow him on Twitter at Buddy Show. You can send him a text on the Titan Mart text line at 352-353-7465. Well, Buddy, NBA's down there in their little bubble. Well, first of all, let's talk about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the worst case scenario happened a couple of days ago. The Marlins were playing the Phillies, I believe. 13 players tested positive. They had to cancel their games last night and today. And then the other teams, the Phillies had to cancel their games. That's what we did not want to happen. How do you see this playing out?
I'm not shocked, and I think baseball sort of panicked when this happened. Like, hello, coronavirus is here; it's everywhere. And I don't want to get on my soapbox here, but here's what gets me: baseball, unfortunately, apparently didn't anticipate this. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in a lot of sports, but it's pretty simple if you follow the protocols and you say, what do I need to do? There's a pandemic going on. If you do certain things, the chances are you're going to get it. And somehow even a lot of Americans haven't even been able to understand that so far. They act like they party like it's 1969 and keep going, and it's the level of stupidity just overwhelms me sometimes because people are so irresponsible. And it's not just you got to worry about the person next to you. So let's start with that. Now let's talk about there's a pandemic, there's sports teams, there's going to be this kind of thing. They better deal with it. You had a guest on last week, and I had him on later, Dr. Pete Indelicato, and he made a great point. He said, look, they'll probably end up playing, but they say, what is the acceptable rate of infection? Is there a number out there where you say, okay, if we can hold it down to this, we'll be able to play? And there has to be that number. But like Dr. Pete says, at 8%, because if you're trying to get a virus-free sports world, you're not going to have it. There are going to be infections and the problems. So then the question is, how do you deal with them? What are the warning signals? And when does it get to a point to be a red alert? So baseball has shot. All of a sudden, they had like 14 total Marlins out. Now, what are they going to do? They're struggling to figure that part out. They've canceled a couple of games. Now the question is, I hear people saying cancel the season. I think they're going to try to keep playing. I think they're going to say this is reality. We're going to try to deal with it the best we can. And if we see the infection rates going, we're going to have to suspend for 2 weeks or whatever it might be. I don't want baseball to do that. You don't want baseball to do that. But what else do you do? Those are the facts. You cannot deny what's in front of you. And that is that we're in a dangerous time. And if you're going to go out and be exposed, you're going to get COVID-19.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I don't quite understand. I understand what the NBA is doing with their bubble, keeping everyone as safe as they possibly can. It's impossible to do what they're doing baseball because you're traveling from city to city. Now they're not supposed to be going out on the town, this, that, and the other. But I'm surprised because I know at one time they were talking about, whether it was here in the state of Florida or in Arizona, you know, it's almost like going to a travel ball tournament, where you got 4 fields right there,
Mm-hmm.
play, and then they go back to the hotel. But them going, because it makes no sense to me why they're playing in each city when there's no fans. You know what I mean, buddy? Because it's
Good
not like
point.
they're
Good
getting
point.
not getting any money out of it because
Yeah.
the fans can't attend it. So I feel like
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, and maybe they did, and I just missed it in the news, why they didn't decide to, take the American League, put them all out in Arizona in maybe 2 cities or whatever, and try to, keep them at a resort or whatever in a small tight bubble, and take the National League and put them down in somewhere here in Florida. But I don't understand why they're going from ballpark to ballpark when there are no fans watching.
Listen, I am so much in the dark. You had to tell me last week that who was all was playing in the NBA bubble. I didn't even know who all it was. I've got to catch up. I mean, there's so many things that have changed. Rules have changed, teams have changed, whatever. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it seems to me, what do I know? I'm just a common man out there, um, blue collar guy trying to make a living. But the bottom line, it seems like you'd have a better chance, as you say, if you stayed in that bubble. But then you got an NBA guy going to a strip club. I mean, what is that all about? I mean, good grief, man! Can't have a little respect for your teammates if you don't have. I mean, if you don't go to a strip club, that's your own you, but not what during these times. The utter stupidity with doing things like that without regard for other people just flabbergasts
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of your NBA, buddy, I'm gonna go ahead and give you an update. NBA starting back Thursday. Thursday's when they crank it up again. So we'll see how that goes down.
See, I'm glad you told me because I was thinking maybe it was already underway, but I realized those are exhibition games.
Yeah, it starts for real on Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, college football, buddy, we've had a couple of teams, Michigan State, Rutgers, I believe they kind of quarantine isolated their entire program. I think one coach may have gotten it. What are you hearing from all your sources about our college football season?
Same as everybody else. It's just we don't know what's going on. I know you had Mick Hubert on this week. I had last night Lee McGriff on. We were trying to put the pieces together as to what's going on. And he says, I don't even know if we're broadcasting the games. I don't know if we're going to be traveling the teams. I don't know anything. We don't know. Let's be honest. We don't know anything. And it's just, and if we do know it, it could change in 24 hours. Look, I'm going to stick with what I said before, and I've been telling you. Unless there's just utter chaos and massive sickness, they're going to find a way to play some football some way, somehow this season. I don't know if it'll be 6 games, 8 games, but at some point they aren't going to start on time. They're not going to play they're going to play the Power 5 games as much as possible because, as Barry Alvarez says, if they don't play football, they lose $100 million this year. Now, Wisconsin is a program, as Franz pointed out in his column, that could take that hit. Florida could take that hit. Maybe 10, 12, 15 schools that could take that hit. But it's going to wipe out some athletic departments completely. So if there's any way, Shane, look, you and I have to work. We got to do this show. If we were exposed to the COVID and doing this, we'd have to make a decision about what we were going to do. Everybody's pocketbook's taking a beating right now. And I understand and feel for those people. But, it's a crapshoot. I just think college football is going to play some kind of season unless we have such an infection rate that it's impossible to walk the streets. So I hope it won't get that way. I don't think it will. So I'm going with football, some kind of football this year. I'm going to go put a plug in for my idea again because nobody listens to me. But so they play 8 games. Well, we'll play a 12 team or 14 or 16 team playoff, and get the games in somewhere. I don't know. Seems to me that's the way to do it. That's the way to make extra revenue and whatever. But yeah, football. I love what Ed Orgeron said. He says, "Please give us football. We have to have football down here in Louisiana." So it's a way of life. It's something we don't want to put people in harm's way. But I like what Scott Strickland's doing. I like what UF Health is doing. Not too happy about reading that story that bunch of anesthesiologists got infected because they went to a party, for crying out loud, in Gainesville. But no, I think there'll go be some kind of football. Don't you?
I do. I look at it from a player perspective and a college football fan perspective because you only have so many years to play college football, and these are the lifelong dreams of these kids. And I just hope if we do play this year, they figure out a way where at least the Power Five schools, all of them, are playing somewhat a similar regular season schedule where everybody has to play the same amount of games, in my opinion, buddy, because we're still playing for one ultimate goal to win the national title. If we're gonna suit up, that's what we're doing, right? We're playing for a championship. So the NCAA, somebody's got to figure out, okay, how are we going to make it fair for all the Power Five? And I'm with you. I think this year is the year where they experiment with the 14 playoff, and you say, okay, all 5 Power Five conference champions after their championship game get an automatic bid into the playoff. And then you maybe have 3 or more than that at large teams for the tournament. So let's just say Florida goes to Atlanta undefeated, Alabama goes there undefeated. Well, whoever wins gets in, but you would think an SEC one-loss team would get one of those at-large bids. I think this is a year to try it because I think it's the only way to make it fair and make it a fun football season.
Know this, you know better than I, because your son's on the team. It feels like that Florida has a pretty good grip on things, but it doesn't do them any good if Georgia and Auburn and Tennessee and all those other programs don't, because they have to have somebody to play. So it's just such an uncertainty. I've just decided to wave the white flag and say, I don't know. I'm just going to wait and find out like everybody else.
Yeah, and I know these kids want to play. I do know, as you mentioned, with what we have here at UF Health, our trainers, our leadership in Scott Strickland, they're not going to put any of our athletes in danger. I'm 100% belief in that.
Yeah, by the way, not to interrupt you, Dr. Pete said this is almost a recruiting tool. Is that when you got what Florida's got, maybe their facilities aren't quite where they need to be yet, but when you put top 10 academics, top 10 public schools in a first-class health system like UF Health, and you would know this because you got it, your son's got it, that's a pretty big thing for parents, I would think.
No, it definitely is. You don't really think about those type things when you're on a recruiting visit, but I think in the world we live in today, absolutely. It's interesting. We're still plugging away, getting that football facility ready during this time. So we got a question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Rick wants to know, so if leaders are concerned about the money, if no football is played, what is the money value of a life? There does not appear to be a way to safely play with the COVID spreading.
And that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And it's money versus, like, and it's that way, not just for football, it's that way in our world today. I mean, look, the president, whether you like him or don't, whoever he might be next fall or next January, has got to make that same value judgment. How do you know? What do the governors do? Some governors have done a terrible job. We all know that. But which is right? You don't want to have an economy that's broken and you can't work and you're all on, welfare. If there is any welfare, it might not be any. So there's a balance there. I'm not smart enough to tell you what it is, but Rick, you're right on it. That's the question. It's the value of a life we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's the big issue here. So, it's a shame it takes so long to get vaccines done. We need one ASAP.
And that's the truth. And then it might change next week. So who knows? So you saw the Under Armour story, right?
Well, you mentioned to him before, I guess they were trying to get out of some big contracts with some of the schools they had out in the Pac-12, I think. Who was it? California. They wanted to get their contract that they signed with them, all the money back, and maybe one other school, UCLA, I believe it was.
Well, but they have this now, this Bloomberg story about how some of the top executives are being investigated, and it's been going on for quite some time, of federal securities laws. And so I guess it sounds like, and it's hard to know just reading these stories, but it sounds like they're in a bit of trouble right now. And they've changed their CEO. And I thought they were making progress the whole time, but thought they were doing okay. And obviously never going to catch Nike, but they've done pretty well for an upstart company. So I'm not sure what that means. But when you say a pair of top executives, including the founder, and naming a federal probe of the accounting firm, you have to be concerned. Doesn't mean they're guilty. It just means that that's something they have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. David says, most all universities honestly have very good medical systems, and frankly, better physicians are generally in private practice now.
Yeah. David would know. He's pretty hip on that stuff. It's good to know. We can't have too many good medical people right now. That's for sure. And I'll tell you what, when you've got a medical facility and you got a system, this is what Dr. Pete pointed out, you have a whole system. It's not just a system, but it's right there on campus close to the athletic department and the student body, unlike other schools whose systems they have going to go to 50, 75 miles away. So that's important. You're right.
So, buddy, I know you don't really follow recruiting very closely, do you?
Well, a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I don't follow it closely, but I can see what Alabama's doing. My gosh, what they're doing, racking up the 5 stars.
Well, I mean, it's a simple procedure. You win games, you have good coaching, and you have tremendous facilities that you already had tremendous facilities, but they've redone those facilities to make them even better. You know, one of my closest friends, his 2 boys, he was an All-American at Texas, played in the NFL for about 15 years. He has his twin boys, the number 1 left tackle in the country, the number 1 center in the country. Yeah. You know, they're going to Alabama.
I know.
Initially, they were going to go to Clemson, but they chose Alabama. Mm-hmm. I don't blame them one bit.
Hey, look, I mean, who wouldn't want to play for Alabama, right? Let's be honest about it right now. As good a coach as there is in football, obviously, and Nick Saban. I was talking to a coach the other day, a coach not named Spurrier, but someone who's well known. I said, what makes Saban so good? He says he does everything so well. In this particular coach, one of the first things he does when he breaks down a team, looking at them, he goes right out to their special teams right away. It's the first thing to see. And he says, if their special teams are sloppy, I know we can beat them because that means the rest of their stuff is sloppy. He said, Saban's special teams are extraordinary. He said, you know, everything he does, he touches, he makes sure it's done well. And I think that's a point I hadn't thought about. But my gosh, Alabama, 4 5-star prospects for 2020. And they've got I guess Ohio State's done pretty well too, but they tied Ohio State for the most 5-star commitments for 2021. We're watching some kids down here in Ocala, by the way, too, about that might be Gators as well. It's going to be an interesting recruiting season. I don't follow it closely enough, but I expect really has some kind of announcements in a month or so in August. Is that right? Next month?
What's that?
I read. Some people are going to commit in August, according to what I read.
Yeah, you know, kids are committing all these different days. It's just such a weird time, and I hope we can play high school football because, you know, you only get to play football for so long, and hopefully they can figure out a safe way for these kids to play.
For sure, yeah.
Buddy, what you got on the show tonight?
Well, I got you. Let's help you save the show tonight. We've got David Moulton, our friend down in Miami, down in Fort Myers, actually. Very good national voice. He works for the SEC. He works for CBS during the football season. And an up-and-comer, Ainsley Lee. You know Ainsley. She's got some interesting stories on recruiting, and she had a really good story last week on some guy named Shane Matthews, which if you haven't seen it, I guess you got it on your site, don't you? I'm told that you do. We had it on Gatorbait, and we'll have it on Gatorbait.
My marketing folks may have it up there. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, buddy.
Oh, Shane, stop it, will you? I'm just a little country boy from Mississippi. I don't know what I'm doing out there. Hey, I learned one thing about the difference in Cleveland and Pascagoula. I can tell you that.
Oh, that's a big difference. Trust me, big difference.
How many stoplights in Cleveland?
I look forward to being on the show tonight. People can check you out at 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live, The Buddy Martin Show on Facebook. And we'll talk to you tonight, my man.
All right. Thanks a lot, Shane.
That's Buddy Martin. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we're going to be joined by All-American kicker Caleb Strugis. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to fall. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School,
Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish.
Radware, Style Cuts, Rap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance,
MB Listings.
and Pomodoro Cafe.
If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Go back to a Tuesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security Systems Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, Starbucks, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point. We're going to go now to the Titan MR Hotline, and we're joined by All-American kicker Caleb Sturgis. Good morning, Caleb. How are you, bud?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my man. Well, what I like to do with all the former athletes that come on, I like to go back to your younger days. You grew up in St. Augustine, Florida. You were a Yellow Jacket over there. Obviously, you were a great soccer player, and we all know about kicking. Did you play any other sports growing up?
Just in the backyard. I'm one of 6 kids. Had 3 brothers, so we played everything in the backyard. But I was the 4th child. So for the most part, I kind of just followed what my older brothers and sister did, and they were all pretty good soccer players at the time. So I was kind of the only option growing up.
So you probably played a lot of travel soccer when you were a young kid. Let me ask you this, because I know I've been around high school football for a long time, and usually most high school teams don't have kickers. It's usually the coach has to go over and beg some kid on the soccer team to come play and kick for them. Did that happen to you at St. Augustine, or did you want to be a kicker?
No, that was pretty much spot on exactly what happened. So, I mean, growing up, I always kind of envisioned myself playing soccer all the way through college. But all my older siblings went to Nice, actually, where Tebow played. Everybody's probably familiar with a high school in Florida. But they were all homeschooled, so they were able to play sports at Nice. So they played soccer there. They had a really elite soccer program at the time. My sister won a state championship. Brothers went to a state championship. And St. Augustine was definitely not known for their soccer program. But I really wanted to attend high school and not, just play sports. So I was zoned for St. Augustine, so I had to go there. And realized the first year we probably weren't going to win much on our soccer team. But the football team was really good. We had Brandon James, Jacquez Rickerson, a ton of other really talented guys. And when the football coach asked me if I wanted to play, I figured, well, you know what, I'll probably win a state championship. So I'll give it a shot. It's not what I'm going to do in the future, but it'll be fun to be a part of.
Yeah. So, like you said, you didn't really want to play football, but then when did you realize, I got a chance to play at the next level kicking a football?
Right. So I was really fortunate, and his name might be familiar. Dan Mowry first helped me start kicking, and he kicked at Florida State in the early 90s, and he moved to St. Augustine. He's a really good attorney in town, and he taught me everything about kicking. And again, I was still playing travel soccer. I actually missed a game my first season against Barton Trail because we had a soccer tournament down in Orlando that weekend.
I would have got crazy about the head coach.
Yeah, Coach Wiles, for understanding that one, was pretty wild. But, so focus pretty much the whole time was always still to play soccer. But we did make the state championship that year. It was down in Dolphin Stadium, and ended up hitting a 49-yarder as a sophomore, and hit a kickoff off the crossbar in the game. and people started and we won the state championship. It was an unbelievable experience. And again, with kicking, you just really don't see that many good kickers throughout a season because there's only, a few guys that really take it seriously, and especially coaches that let kickers try field goals. So you just don't know. So I had no idea. I thought there were pretty elite kickers out there. You just don't know where they are. But people started to kind of get in my ear and say, you could really do this. You could really play at the next level.
So when you signed, Urban Meyer signed you, but were there other schools that came after Caleb Sturgis, and what made you choose the University of Florida?
Yeah, I had a good amount of offers from a kicker standpoint. I think I had about 15 to 20 offers. Actually, Coach Spurrier was interested at South Carolina, and it was actually his son that recruited me. He came down to a high school a few times, and growing up a huge Gator fan, my mom went to the University of Florida. So, just the fact that Coach Spurrier was interested was pretty flattering. And Miami offered me late. Took a visit to Florida State, but my mom went to the University of Florida. So if they offered, that was pretty much going to be it. And then you add the fact that they won the 2006 national championship. Coach Meyer is probably by far the hottest coach coming out at the time. Saban even called me late, but again, at the time, this was 07 going into the 08 year. Alabama wasn't very good at the time. So there really wasn't a choice for me.
Yeah, and what's interesting is Saban's not known for offering kickers scholarships. He usually has walk-ons year after year. So you get to the University of Florida, you win the national title in 08. You play for both Urban and Will Muschamp. Let me ask you this, because I don't know you that well, but you seem like a normal kicker, if that means anything. There's some kickers that are kind of strange. How did Urban and Will Muschamp treat the kickers? Because some coaches treat kickers, it's hard to explain over air, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Completely different philosophies. Now, one major thing I'll put in there is I played a lot better under Muschamp, so I think that dictates a lot how coaches treat you. I'm sure you've seen it over the years. But Coach Meyer was very much he motivated through psychology, and was always trying to get in your head and test you. The strength and conditioning program was very similar to that too. It was let's pound the guys in the ground and see who gets up. And it was the same thing kind of mentally with Coach Meyer, where Coach Muschamp kind of came in and gave me a lot of space and just told me to do my job. As charismatic as he was, I really don't ever remember him yelling at me or anything like that, which is surprising that he was, able to turn that on and off for the kicking position. So they definitely took very different approaches. Again, my time felt a lot better under Coach Muschamp, but I think a lot of that could probably be tied to performance as much as, the way they treated me.
Yeah, we're speaking with Caleb Sturgis on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. If you got a text for him, it's 352-353-7465. We have a text here from Phil. He wants to know, Caleb, what's the one kick for the Gators that stands out in your mind?
So growing up in St. Augustine, it was about 30 minutes from Jacksonville. Grew up a big Jaguars fan. So obviously the Florida-Georgia game was huge to me. Grew up watching it. And so my sophomore year there, I think right before halftime, I hit a 56-yarder. That one will always be really special to me.
And no, 56 yards. Is that the longest field goal in Florida history?
I believe there's a 60-yarder.
Really? Who hit it? Panero?
No.
Jeff Chandler?
No, it was. I can't remember. I know it was back when they had tees, so it was a little. I think it was back in the 80s or.
Wow.
80s. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's impressive.
I want to ask you this, because like you said, usually the kickers are off pretty much the entire practice doing their own things. Did you ever get bored at a practice?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's nice in college because you have so many specialists. I think we had probably anywhere between 15 and 20 specialists at all times. So, and for the most part, definitely under Coach Meyer, I'm trying to remember Coach Muschamp, but it's pretty similar. Usually special teams periods are periods 1 and 2. And you kind of get them out of the way and you're done for the day. So we go out early, warm up, get ready for those 2 periods, do our best in those periods. And then you have about 2.5 hours of absolutely nothing. And sometimes the coaches will ask, some of the walk-on specialists or ones that aren't going to play to do different scout team things throughout the practice. But for the most part in college, you have 130 guys, so you shouldn't need that. So we'd go over on the third field and we'd make up a lot of games, and they got pretty creative too, of different throwing games, punt golf. One point we were playing wiffle ball, but that got axed by Coach Mick pretty quickly.
So, Kay, let me ask you this. You played a long time here at Florida, I don't know how many different stadiums you played in. What was the one stadium that, because I know kickers in the NFL, especially because those venues very well, but is there one stadium that you did not like playing in because whether it was the way the wind blew, certain tunnels or what have you? Is there one game in the SEC, one stadium that you did not like playing at?
In the NFL, the first one that comes to mind, and I got a lot of respect for Eddie playing here, and I thought he did a really good job his first year. And the more he plays there, the better I think he'll do. But in Chicago, it's just so windy. It really swirls in the stadium, and then you add on the grass is very different than everywhere else in the NFL. I could be completely making this up, but someone told me this a while ago. I don't think they have an actual grounds crew that they hire to take care of the field themselves. I believe it's taken care of by the city. So a lot of times the grass is much higher than anywhere else. So again, the ball, when it's held, is sitting down there real deep. You don't see the sweet spot as much. I mean, kind of like if you're playing golf and the ball is always sitting down in the rough, it just makes it a lot tougher. And again, Robbie Gould for the Bears did an unbelievable job for so long. And, it's ever since he left, it's a real tough to replace him. I think getting Eddie is going to be the right guy to do it. But as far as college goes, I'm trying to remember. LSU was pretty wild with how loud it got. I don't remember it being overly hard to actually kick in. The Swamp, actually, it's funny you mention it. With the 2 openings in the end zone there, it creates a lot of funky wind. So, and then Jacksonville as well. I would say always was really windy with the water coming off St. John's, but really I thought the Swamp almost gave me the most trouble. But fortunately, it's my home stadium.
That's funny. We got a text here from Joe. Joe wants to know. I read where your wife was a cheerleader. How did you meet her? Kimberly cheered. So my buddy, who was a tight end at the time, Billy Steinman, he was dating her roommate and went out to a date function at their sorority and didn't go with her, actually. She actually was doing an event at Orange and Brew at the time, I think. I don't know if that still exists. But, she was kind of on the way out of the house and met her very briefly and just kind of asked my buddy Billy if, she'd go on another date with me. It took her a long time, but eventually she said yes. Good deal. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Caleb Strugis, Florida All-American kicker. We got a question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. It comes from Jeff. It's an interesting question here. He says, did you ever receive any tackling training? Did you make any important tackles in college?
Important tackles. I knocked some guys out of bounds a few times. I'm trying to think if I had any good tackles. We did a little bit. Can't think of anything too crazy. I mean, we did all the mat drills and conditioning and things like that. But for the most part, it was just kind of maybe some angle drills of just, trying to make a guy cut back for the most part was our job, or, just get underneath the guy as he runs you over. we didn't do too much. I think the biggest thing is, for the most, especially in the pros, you only have one kicker. In college, maybe you have a second guy that can do a decent job, but the last thing you want is to have a guy that has no idea what he's doing on a tackle to hurt his shoulder and in a moment that doesn't matter. So I don't remember spending a lot of time doing tackle drills.
Caleb, you get drafted by the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what it was like staying in the state of Florida and playing for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it was, a surreal feeling. And as I mentioned earlier, the high school state championship game, the first moment that really hit me that I wanted to continue kicking was in Dolphin Stadium, playing in that high school state championship game. My mom and dad both spent some time. My mom grew up in South Florida, and my dad spent some time down there as a pastor. So I was definitely real familiar with South Florida. And again, my dad being a pastor, preaching on Sundays, very little chance you'd be able to see many games if it wasn't in the state. So it was really neat going to high school in the state of Florida, getting to stay, going to my favorite team as the Gators, and then again staying in the state of Florida and playing for the Dolphins. It was at the moment just an unbelievable feeling.
Then you move on, you go to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Unfortunately, you have some injuries, but y'all win the Super Bowl. What was it like being a part of a Super Bowl team, but actually I think you were on IR, and you wear your Super Bowl ring, or do you got it like in it's sitting at home in a drawer?
It's somewhere, but no, it's so big I don't really ever wear it. But no, it was so cool being a part of. It was just such an unbelievable group of guys on that team, and just what they came together to do. You look into the beginning of that season, and nobody would have seen it coming outside of that building. I think Coach Peterson had been there 1 year, and people are calling for him to be fired and saying that he has no business having that job. And he takes the team to just an unbelievable start. If you add up all the injuries on that team, Carson Wentz is about to win the MVP. He goes down. Jason Peters, a Hall of Fame tackle, goes down. Darren Sproles. The list goes on to about Jordan Hicks, another Pro Bowl guy. You go down 10, 12 guys of just most teams wouldn't be able to overcome that. But no, it was really special that entire year. So just to be a part of it, see the way Nick came out the last few games, especially the Super Bowl, outperformed Tom Brady. Just being on the same field that day will be a memory I'll always have.
And so before Doug Peterson gets there and y'all win, you play for Chip Kelly. Two-part question. We got to be very fortunate that we didn't hire Chip Kelly here in Mullen. Second part of that question is, as a kicker, it probably stinks playing for Chip Kelly because he goes for it so many times, right?
Yeah, I really liked Coach Kelly the person, but he's funny. Just being around college athletics, you realize as a head coach, you have to be there for the players. The players have to feel like you're batting for them and whatnot. And you can see that with Coach Mullen, and how charismatic he is and how much he cares about the players. And I think Chip did too, but I don't think he showed it as much. And you can kind of see in the recruiting how it affects it all. And I don't think Coach Kelly enjoys the recruiting part of it. I think he enjoys the X's and O's of it, and just kind of wants people to be a part of that, where Coach Mullen does a good job with building the relationships. But as far as playing goes, I did enjoy playing for Coach Kelly, and really Coach Phipp was a special teams coordinator there, and that was who I dealt with more. And he does an unbelievable job of really breaking down the game. And as far as the kicking goes, doesn't put you in situations that you probably shouldn't be kicking. As far as there's just certain days in NFL stadiums where a 52-yarder is a lot different one way going than the other, and he was always real aware of that as far as where we kicked, and put you in a really good position to make your kicks. And so I enjoyed my time with Coach Kelly, but I'd also say I'm really happy with who we did hire and who we do have here at as our head coach.
No doubt about it. We're speaking with Caleb Sturgis on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. A few more minutes with Caleb. I got to ask you this because I know how strange kickers are. Were you a superstitious type guy? Did you have the same routine? Are you superstitious when it comes to kicking?
I'm not. I tried not to ever be, but I'm sure there's little things that I did that I didn't even notice. But I try not to have, exact, tie this shoe first, show up at this time, do this or that, because, it's not realistic to have everything always fall into place perfectly. So I tried to have, very little, superstitions as far as that went. But, just like a golf swing too, you want to prepare the same way for each kick and be very specific with how you're taking your steps back and where you are and putting yourself in the best position to make the kick. So I think attention to details without getting overly, overthinking every kick with having everything be perfect.
We got a text here on the Titan Tomorrow text line. It comes from Larry. Larry wants to know, what are you up to these days, Caleb?
So I'm helping out with the Buchholz specialist right now. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old daughter, so been really enjoying hanging out with them. And then I'm taking a few classes right now as well, and just figuring it out a little bit of during this transition.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you do train some kids as well, right? In kicking.
Yes, yeah. I've just started that about 6-7 months ago. Right now I have about 8 or 10 guys that do some private lessons with, and definitely want to do that in the future again with Coach Mowry, being such a big help to me, coming out of high school, realize it's just not everywhere you can find a good coach. So definitely want to be able to help the next generation of kickers.
We've got a couple more questions here for you. We got a game winner, or we got a game-winning drive. What hash mark, or do you want it in the middle of the field for Caleb Sturgis to kick the game winner?
I mean, whenever coaches ask me this, the biggest thing I'd always say is I want it a little closer. But I would say the left hash as a right footed kicker would be the easiest. I definitely had a little bit of a draw to every kick, so it just makes the uprights a little wider when you're on the left hash. Having a ball that moves just a little bit right to left. But again, if the biggest thing is the last thing I want to do is lose 5 yards from the right hash to get to the middle, or lose 5 yards from the middle to get to the left hash. I'm trying to remember the game that maybe it was Alabama in the national championship or something, where they were trying to move a ball to a hash and lost 5 yards on the play, and then I think the kicker hit the upright, and I just didn't get it. And I think that's a question that's overthought, especially with, how good the kicking game's gotten at most places in the NFL. To me, the hash, especially in the NFL too, where the hashes are on the uprights. So if you hit a ball straight, it should go in. It's just kind of an old school theory that I think is dying out a little bit.
When you kick, you say you have a natural draw. Is that the same in your golf game? Do you have a natural draw?
Well, there's nothing natural about my golf game, but I had a pretty bad, I'll call it a fade. It was probably more of a slice. I just started playing a few years ago, and I've overcompensated for a little bit. So I would say I have a draw now, but it's probably more of a pull. But I'm working on it. I've gotten a lot better. I used to have a good short game. I couldn't really hit my low irons and my driver. Now I've turned that around where I can hit those a little bit, but my short game's gotten tough. So one day I'll put it all together.
Let me ask you this, from a leg strength standpoint, can a kicker really increase his leg strength, or is that something that's just God-given?
That's interesting. It depends what how old the kicker is. I think, once you're in your mid-20s, you kind of have what you have, and you can improve your technique a little bit to get a little bit more out of it. You see some late developers. If you'll see a 16-year-old kid, and you see this in every position. That's why kids go pro from Division III. But I would say that, once you're in your mid 20s, really all you can do is change your form up to get your best ball every time. But improving leg strength is really hard to do. For the most part, you can watch somebody and say, we can get you more accurate, but, you might never have the leg to play at this level.
Last text for you here on the Titan MR hotline. It comes from Betty. She wants to know who is your favorite professional soccer player?
Well, it was my brother for a long time. He played 11 years in MLS. But the debate usually always goes between Ronaldo and Messi. I'm a big Messi fan. It's just unbelievable what he does with the ball. Again, not quite as physically gifted as you would think of with Ronaldo, but just the skill set that he has, being able to keep the ball tied to his foot, is pretty unbelievable. But it's been awesome getting to grow up watching those two guys play, and in my opinion, possibly the greatest two soccer players ever play. Played almost my entire adult life.
Last question. Sorry, this is the last question. Give me your assessment of current Gator kicker Evan McPherson.
For his age, he's the best I've ever seen. I've gone out and watched him a few times in person, and again, he's not. It doesn't have Janikowski type, hit the ball 80 yards and just, you never seen that before. But I've never seen anybody hit the ball as accurately as he does, kick over kick. At that age, I remember, I'd hit a lot of good kicks, but it was tough. It would be about 8 out of every 10 balls would be, really good rotation, going really straight. For him, it's all 10 kicks. And even if you look at, I think he maybe has 3 misses on his entire career at Florida. Every single one of those kicks, the rotation's perfect and debatably went in there right over the right upright. So there's just no dispersion in his kicks, and it's really impressive.
Well, Caleb, we appreciate you joining the show. Your career was very impressive as well. Stay safe, my friend, and we'll have you on later, a couple of years or so.
Awesome.
Last thing for you. Do you ever go over to the university and kick with these young guys? I remember reading a story a couple of years ago. Judd Davis used to go over and kick with Panero, I believe. Are you done kicking, or you still kick a little bit here and there?
It's been a long time since I kicked. Actually, I did go fairly recently. I went over there with Evan and Cairo Santos. He grew up in Brazil, came over as an exchange student to St. Augustine, which is pretty crazy. We're in the same town, but the three of us went and kicked a little. I hadn't kicked in a year, so hopefully nobody was in the stands watching. But I still really enjoy being around it. And again, getting to see the younger generation, how good they are. I think every year the athletes are a little bit better. As you would say, that the kickers are becoming less different. That they're really good athletes now that are just becoming kickers rather than a guy that can make another position, so he's kicking. So occasionally I do. I was out there a lot with Eddie while I was playing. I'd come back here and train, so I haven't done it as much, but I'd like to.
Good deal. Well, like you said, man, appreciate you joining the show. If anyone's listening out there and has a kid that wants to get some training, how do they contact you?
Could I give my email?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, my email is Caleb Strugis 19@gmail.com.
All right, good stuff, my man. Well, stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon, Caleb.
All right. Thank you so much, Shane.
That's Gator great All-American kicker Caleb Strugis joining us on the Titan MR hotline. This Day in Sports is brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Don't fight your area rugs. Take them to Area Rug Masters. With their convenient curbside services, you will never need to go anywhere else. Call them 352-448-5999. This Day in Sports in 1991, Dennis Martinez pitches the 13th perfect game in Major League Baseball history. That's brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Don't forget Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com, and we'll have our man Jackie Spreads on Thursday, and he'll have Coach Mike White joining the program. Don't forget, tune in tomorrow. We're going to be joined by my former teammate and freshman brother, Dexter McNabb, scored the first touchdown in the Steve Spurrier era. He'll be joined also with Blake Alderman talking Gator recruiting. Folks, stay safe out there. This show is a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.